It was a bright and sunny morning. Momo the monkey and Diddy the duckling were walking home from school. The birds were singing. The flowers were moving in the wind. Momo was carrying his school bag. Diddy was humming a happy song. "What a nice day," said Diddy. "Yes," said Momo. "I can't wait to play after lunch." The two friends walked along a small forest path. Suddenly, Diddy stopped. "Wait, Momo." "What is it?" asked Momo. Diddy pointed at something on the ground. "There is a box over there." Momo looked. Near a big tree was a small wooden box. It was old and covered with dirt. The friends walked closer. "Who left this here?" asked Diddy. "I don't know," said Momo. Momo carefully opened the box. Creak. The box opened slowly. Inside was a rolled-up piece of paper. "A paper?" said Diddy. Momo picked it up. It looked very old. The corners were torn. The paper was yellow. Momo slowly opened it. The friends looked at it. Their eyes became very big. "It looks like a map," shouted Diddy. Momo nodded. "You are right." There were mountains on the map. There was a river. There were many trees. And at the top was a picture of a cave. Above the cave were two words, "Secret Cave." "The secret cave?" asked Diddy. Momo looked excited. "I have never heard of it." Just then, a voice came from behind them. "Because it is only a legend." The friends turned around. It was Tommy the turtle. Tommy was old and very wise. "Hello, Tommy," said Diddy. "Hello, my friends," said Tommy. Tommy looked at the map. His eyes became wide. "Where did you find that?" "In the box," said Momo. Tommy looked worried. "I have seen that map before." "You have?" asked Diddy. Tommy nodded. "Many years ago." "What does it lead to?" asked Momo. Tommy looked toward the mountains. "They say there is a secret cave hidden deep in the mountains." "A cave with treasure?" asked Diddy. Tommy smiled. "Maybe." Momo's eyes sparkled. "Treasure." "But listen carefully," said Tommy. "Many animals looked for the cave." "And did they find it?" asked Diddy. Tommy shook his head. "No." The friends looked at each other. "Why not?" asked Momo. "Because the cave is hidden," said Tommy. "And the road is not easy." Diddy swallowed. "Is it dangerous?" Tommy nodded slowly. "There are rivers. There are storms. There are dark tunnels." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Momo smiled. "I still want to find it." Diddy looked surprised. "You do?" Momo nodded. "Of course." "It sounds like a great adventure." Diddy thought for a moment. Then he smiled too. "You know what?" "What?" asked Momo. "I want to come too." The two friends laughed. Tommy smiled. "I thought you might say that." Momo looked at the map again. "Let's go tomorrow morning." Diddy nodded. "We will pack food." "And water," said Momo. "And flashlight," said Diddy. "And maybe some snacks," said Momo. The friends laughed again. Tommy chuckled. "You should get some rest first. You will need your energy." The sun was starting to go down. The sky turned orange and pink. Momo carefully rolled up the map. "We will meet tomorrow morning," he said. "Bright and early," said Diddy. The two friends walked home, but neither of them could stop thinking about the secret cave. What was inside? Was there really treasure? And why had nobody found it before? Tomorrow, they would begin their biggest adventure ever. Narrator. But little did Momo and Diddy know. Someone was watching them from behind the trees, and that someone wanted the map. The next morning, Momo woke up very early. He jumped out of bed. Today was the day. Today, he and Diddy would begin their adventure. Momo packed his bag. He packed some sandwiches. He packed a bottle of water. He packed a flashlight. And of course, he packed the old map. Soon, he left his house and walked to the meeting place. Diddy was already there. "Good morning," shouted Diddy. "Good morning," said Momo. "Are you ready?" "I was born ready," said Diddy. The two friends laughed. Then Momo carefully took out the map. "According to the map, we must go through the forest first." "And then?" asked Diddy. "Then we will reach a river." "And after that?" "There are mountains." Diddy smiled. "Let's go." The two friends started walking. The morning air was cool. The sun was shining. Everything seemed peaceful. At first, the journey was easy. They followed a small path through the forest. They talked and laughed. They sang songs. But after a while, the trees became bigger. The forest became darker. The path became narrow. Diddy looked around. "This place feels different." Momo nodded. "It does." Suddenly, rustle, rustle. Something moved in the bushes. The friends froze. "What was that?" whispered Diddy. "I don't know," whispered Momo. "Rustle." The bushes shook again. The two friends slowly stepped back. Then, a little squirrel jumped out. "Hello," said the squirrel. Momo and Diddy both screamed, "Aichi!" The squirrel looked confused. "Why are you shouting?" The friends started laughing. "You scared us," said Diddy. The squirrel laughed too. Then he noticed the map. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To the secret cave," said Momo proudly. The squirrel's smile disappeared. "The secret cave?" Momo nodded. "Yes." The squirrel looked nervous. "My grandfather told me stories about that place." "What stories?" asked Diddy. "He said strange things happen there." Diddy gulped. "What kind of strange things?" The squirrel shook his head. "I don't know." My grandfather never finished the story. The friends looked at each other. Now they were even more curious. They thanked the squirrel and continued walking. Hours passed. The forest became deeper and deeper. Soon, Momo noticed something strange. "Diddy, look!" There was a mark on a tree. Someone had carved a symbol into the bark. It looked exactly like the symbol on their map. "The cave symbol," said Diddy. Momo nodded. "Someone was here before us." The friends looked around, but there was nobody nearby. Only trees and silence. Then Diddy noticed something else. "There are footprints." Momo looked down. There were footprints in the dirt. Big footprints. Much bigger than theirs. "Who made these?" asked Diddy. The footprints led deeper into the forest. The two friends followed them, step by step. The footprints continued for a long time. Then suddenly, they stopped. Just stopped. In the middle of the path. "There is nothing here," said Diddy. Momo looked confused. The footprints just disappeared. The forest became very quiet. Too quiet. Then, crack! A branch broke somewhere behind them. The friends quickly turned around. Nobody. Nothing. Only trees. Diddy moved closer to Momo. "Maybe we should go." Momo nodded. "I think so." The two friends started walking faster. But a few moments later, crack! The sound came again. This time it was closer, much closer. Someone, or something, was following them. Momo and Diddy did not know who was behind them, but they were about to find out, and what they saw would surprise them both. Momo and Diddy stood very still. Their hearts were beating fast. Crack! The sound came again. This time it was very close. Diddy grabbed Momo's arm. "Momo." "Yes?" whispered Momo. "I think something is following us." Momo swallowed. "I think so too." The two friends slowly turned around. The forest was quiet, very quiet. Then they saw a shadow move behind a tree. Diddy gasped. "There!" Momo looked. For a moment he saw something. Then it disappeared. "Who is there?" shouted Momo. No answer. "Show yourself!" shouted Diddy. Still no answer. The friends looked at each other. Should they run? Should they stay? Suddenly, a small figure stepped out from behind the tree. It was a fox, a young red fox. He looked surprised. "Oh," said the fox, "you saw me." Momo crossed his arms. "Were you following us?" The fox looked down. "A little." "A little?" asked Diddy. "You followed us all morning." The fox looked embarrassed. "My name is Felix." "Why are you following us?" asked Momo. Felix pointed at the map. "Because of that." "The map?" asked Diddy. Felix nodded. "My grandfather used to talk about the secret cave." Momo's eyes grew wide. "Really?" "Yes," said Felix. "He searched for it many years ago." "Did he find it?" asked Diddy. Felix shook his head. "No, He got lost and came home. The three friends sat down under a tree. Felix continued his story. Before he died, he told me something. What did he say? Asked Momo. He said the cave is real. Momo and Diddi looked excited. But he also said there are clues hidden on the way. Clues? Asked Diddi. Felix nodded. Clues that help travelers find the cave. Momo smiled. Then you can help us. Felix thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Okay. Really? Asked Diddi. Really. Now there were three friends on the adventure. They followed the map together. The sun climbed higher into the sky. Soon they reached a small open field. At the center of the field stood a very old tree. The tree was huge. Its branches stretched far across the field. Momo looked at the map. Wait. He pointed to a picture on the map. The tree. Diddi looked. It looks the same. Felix ran closer. There is something carved into it. The three friends hurried to the tree. On the trunk was a symbol, the same cave symbol. And below it were some words. Momo slowly read them. To find the cave, follow the water. The water? Asked Diddi. Felix looked around. I don't see any water. Neither did Momo. The friends searched around the field. They looked behind rocks. They looked under bushes. They looked everywhere. Then Diddi heard something. Shh! The others stopped talking. What is it? Asked Momo. Listen. Everyone became quiet, very quiet. At first they heard nothing. Then, splash, splash. A faint sound, water. I hear it, shouted Felix. The friends followed the sound, past bushes, past rocks, past flowers. And finally, they found a narrow stream. The water was clear and sparkling. The clue was right, said Momo. Felix smiled. We are on the right path. The three friends followed the stream. They walked for a long time. The stream became wider, and wider, and wider. Soon they stopped. Their eyes became wide. In front of them was a huge river. The water rushed quickly. There was no bridge, no boat, no easy way across. Diddi gulped. How are we supposed to cross that? Momo looked at the map. Then he looked at the river. Then back at the map. I think... What? Asked Felix. Momo pointed to the other side. I think the next clue is over there. The three friends stared at the rushing water. The river was bigger than they had imagined, and crossing it would not be easy. Will Momo, Diddi, and Felix find a way across the river? Or will their adventure end here? Momo, Diddi, and Felix stood beside the river. The water rushed past them. Splash! 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 There is no bridge, said Diddi. There is no boat, said Felix. Momo looked around carefully. There must be a way. The three friends searched along the riverbank. They walked past rocks. They walked past bushes. They walked past tall grass. Then Felix pointed ahead. Look! A large tree had fallen across the river. Its trunk stretched from one side to the other. It can be our bridge, said Momo. Diddi looked nervous. It looks slippery. It is, said Felix. But it is our only chance. The friends took a deep breath. Then they carefully stepped onto the tree. One step, then another, and another. The river rushed below them. Diddi looked down. Big mistake. Oh no! The water made him dizzy. Don't look down, shouted Momo. Diddi quickly looked forward. Slowly, they continued. Halfway across, Felix slipped. Whoa! His feet slid on the wet wood. But Momo quickly grabbed his paw. I got you. Felix smiled. Thanks! Together, they reached the other side safely. Yes! Shouted Diddi. We did it! The friends cheered. But their adventure was not over. Not even close. The map showed that the mountains were still ahead. So they continued walking. Hours passed. The sun began to move lower in the sky. Soon they reached the foot of a giant mountain. The mountain was huge. Its peak touched the clouds. This must be it, said Felix. Momo looked at the map. It matches perfectly. The three friends searched around the mountain. They looked left. They looked right. They looked everywhere. But they could not find any cave. Maybe we came to the wrong mountain, said Diddy. No, said Momo. The map brought us here. Felix sat on a rock. There has to be another clue. Just then, something shiny caught Diddy's eye. Wait! He ran toward a large stone wall. What did you find? Asked Momo. Diddy pointed excitedly. On the wall was the cave symbol. The exact same symbol. The friends smiled. We found it, shouted Felix. But there was still no cave. Only a wall of stone. Momo touched the symbol. Nothing happened. Felix pushed it. Nothing happened. Diddy scratched his head. There must be a trick. The friends looked closely. Then Momo noticed something. There are 3 small shapes here. A circle, a square, and a triangle. Nearby were 3 loose stones with the same shapes. I think this is a puzzle, said Momo. The friends worked together. First, they moved the circle stone. Nothing happened. Then they moved the square stone. Still nothing. Finally, they pushed the triangle stone into place. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The ground shook beneath their feet. The stone wall slowly moved. The friends jumped back. Dust filled the air. Then, a dark opening appeared. A cave. The secret cave. We found it, shouted Diddy. We really found it, shouted Felix. The friends could hardly believe it. After all the walking, after all the clues, after all the challenges, they had finally reached the secret cave. Momo turned on his flashlight. The cave was dark and quiet. The 3 friends carefully stepped inside. Drip, drip, drip. Water fell from the ceiling. Their footsteps echoed through the cave. The walls sparkled. Beautiful crystals covered the stone. Wow, whispered Diddy. It looks magical. The friends walked deeper. Soon they reached a large chamber. In the center stood an old stone table, and on the table sat a wooden chest. Nobody spoke. Could this be the treasure? Slowly, they walked closer. The chest was old, very old. A layer of dust covered it. Felix gently opened the lid. Creak! The chest opened. The friends looked inside. Then they blinked. There was no gold, no diamonds, no jewels, only a single book. A book? Asked Diddy. Momo carefully picked it up. The cover was covered with dust. He opened the first page. Inside was a message. Momo began to read. To the animal who finds this cave. The friends listened carefully. You may be looking for gold. You may be looking for treasure. But the true treasure is not inside this chest. The friends looked at each other. Momo continued reading. The true treasure is the adventure, the courage to keep going, the friends who help you, the lessons you learn, and the memories you make. For a moment, the cave was silent. Then Diddy smiled. I think I understand. Me too, said Felix. Momo closed the book. They looked around the cave. The treasure had never been gold. The treasure was everything they had done together. Finding the map, following the clues, crossing the river, solving the puzzle, helping each other, and never giving up. That was the real treasure. The 3 friends smiled. And for the first time all day, they stopped thinking about what they might find because they had already found it. Friendship, courage, adventure. Soon, the sun began to set outside. Golden light entered the cave entrance. It is time to go home, said Momo. The others nodded. Together, they left the secret cave. As they walked down the mountain, the sky turned orange and pink. The world looked beautiful. Back in the forest, they met Tommy the turtle. Tommy smiled as soon as he saw them. You found it, didn't you? Momo nodded. We did. And did you find the treasure? Asked Tommy. Diddy grinned. Yes. Tommy looked surprised. What was it? The 3 friends looked at each other. Then they smiled. Friendship, courage, and adventure. Tommy laughed. Then you found the greatest treasure of all. The friends continued walking home together. They were tired. Their feet hurt. Their bags were heavy. But their hearts were happy, very happy. And from that day on, Whenever they looked at the old map, they remembered the adventure that changed their lives forever. The adventure of the secret cave. Did you enjoy Momo, Diddy, and Felix's adventure? What would you do if you found a secret map? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for another Storytime Zone adventure.